Hi, it's Ian, and welcome back to my 30 Days of Taiko Skills. Today is day 14, and I'm talking about flams. So, a flam is two hits that are slightly spaced apart. You'd see this in the list of 40 international snare drum rudiments, a list you can easily find anywhere. But a flam, when you play it, sounds just like the word flam. Flam, right, left, or left, right. Flam. Okay, so it's more of a snare drum kind of rudiment approach. It's very, very common to see in the percussion world and the drum set world, but maybe less taught or thought about or talked about in the taiko world. And I think there's probably a lot of good applications to the flam, and maybe some things to avoid as well. So very simply, I'll just demonstrate what a flam would be in the context of learning it as a snare drum rudiment. It consists of two different kinds of notes. One is the main note, which is the big note. I'm going to do a right flam, so the right hand is high, accented. And the grace note, or the ornament note, is going to be low. That's kind of my left hand. So the low one will hit first. It's going to go flam, 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 like this. Okay. So that's the typical flam. Generally, we have these two different levels. We could play more of a unconventional flam where both sticks are at the same level and we just space them similarly, but so they're both loud, but the spacing is similar. So it might be like this. Okay. So there's one other kind of flam that is usually a no-no when you're trying to play a flam, which I know it as flat flam, meaning even though you're trying to play the hits slightly separated, your hands end up accidentally playing at the same time on the skin. And why is this a problem? Well, of course, it doesn't sound like a flam, but the bigger issue to me is the fact that you're choking the drum head and you're losing the tone, the fundamental pitch, and the resonance of you're losing that, and you're creating this strange overtone and a choked sound. So I will try to do 4 flams, and then I'll try to do 4 flat flams and go back and forth. Let's see if we can hear a difference. Could you hear a difference? The flat flam, it's not that easy to get it every single time to be exactly the same, but I can tell when I do hit it the same, the stick rebounds in a strange way, and the resonance of the fundamental tone of the drum goes away, and there's this kind of strange overtone, kind of squeakiness that shows up. So think about flam. Think about the times that you might be trying to hit 2 sticks on the same at the same time on one drum. Think about why we're doing that. It could be because of a visual element. It could be because you're trying to play louder with 2 sticks versus 1. It could be just because somebody told you to. Who knows? But in this case, you can try this experiment. I would recommend doing this yourself. Go on any drum. If you have a bigger drum, you'll probably notice that effect a little bit more because you'll hear that resonance drop out when the sticks hit at the exact same time. By the way, this happens if 2 people are sharing the drum, and that effect is magnified when you're hitting big hits. And for example, if somebody's on the other side of me and we're playing together, and sometimes we hit an accent together and they happen to hit perfectly together at the same time, there's a strange sensation where the rebound is weird and the sound thins out suddenly. So that's one of the downsides of playing two-person on one drum is that those things can happen. That's a good thing because you're playing together and those hits are exactly together. But at the same time, unfortunately, those two sticks coming down at the same time is due to physics, it's reducing the volume even below what it would be with just one person hitting. Okay, so ideally, in that situation, ideally, we're flamming all the time on unison hits so that we don't lose that fundamental resonance. So one place that, of course, this doesn't apply to whatsoever is when you're hitting two different surfaces, two different drums, or in this case, the rim and the drum. So this is often called jan as a kuchishoga syllable when we're hitting two surfaces, especially the skin and the rim at the same time. Jan, Jan. So in this case, of course, there's no issue with the cancellation of the tone. So it's no problem. So, or you could try to make the sound a little bit fatter by playing a flam on purpose. So I'll do 4 flams and 4 flat flams on the jan sound so you can hear the difference. So can you hear a difference? To me, it just gives more presence when they're slightly spaced apart. When they're together, it sounds cleaner. So, of course, they're both valid depending on what you're looking for. Anytime you're trying to get more volume, more perceived volume, or more presence, then spacing them apart slightly. And not necessarily doing the snare drum version where one is very quiet hit and one's louder, but just spacing them apart. In that case, it might give you a little bit more presence, a little bit more boost in the kind of fatness of that perceived fatness of the sound. So think about that. Experiment on your own. See if you can practice your flat flam and notice, does this actually sound louder even though you would think you're bringing down your two sticks at the same time? You would think you could get it twice as loud as one stick coming down if everything else is the same, variable. But when you get the exact flat flam, you are creating this choked sound that is inhibiting the resonance, and that's a serious issue. So think about that. If it's more for a visual thing, and that's the most important thing, and it doesn't really matter if the tone is lost, that's one consideration. But if you are going for musicality as well, and you're trying to get a certain sound, then the alternative would be, again, go to another surface. If you have another drum, you can play 2 drums, no problem. Or space the notes slightly apart. And you'll probably get a bigger sound, a louder sound. So this effect, of course, is the biggest. You can hear the effect of this concept most when you're hitting center hits and big hits. As you get closer to the edge and getting a thinner and thinner sound, you might notice it less, especially if you're playing quieter. It might not be that big of a deal, but it is something that I hear fairly often. This effect of 2 sticks coming down at the same time, and it's a little bit of a question mark I always have: is, are you trying for that sound specifically, or is it more of a visual thing, or are you under the impression that it's actually louder to hit that? So anyway, please experiment on your own and see what works for you, and make a decision based on kind of checking out different ways to play flams or flat flams. Okay, I'll see you on the next one.